My mother's favorite was to call me a user. That was her number one favorite. We'll get to number two in just a moment. User. I'm like 9. I don't even know what that is. And then she, at some point, explains to me, you can't just call people when you need something. And she would ask me if I had called my grandparents. And she wanted me to call them all the time. By the way, their house was also abusive. So of course I didn't want to call them. Sometimes it was the lesser of two evils, depending on the circumstances. Like, for example, if it was just my grandmother and I loved being there. But if my grandfather was there, not so much. But I was a user if I didn't call them every day, and if I only called them when I needed something. But here's the thing. I was too terrified to call anybody if I needed something. I never asked for help. That's a skill I've only honed in the last few years. That's how much that stuck. Asking for help gives me anxiety, not so much now, but still a little bit. Like, that's one of those hardwired things that I have to go, okay, hold on. You know, I like to help people. I shouldn't deprive others of that same feeling, right? That's how I figured it out. The other thing that my mother loved to call me was a follower. And she was 100% right. She would tell me, you don't have a thought or an opinion of your own. I mean, I'm a little girl. And she's right, I didn't. Because I was navigating the world through what everybody else wanted or needed me to be. And the last thing I was going to do was raise my hand and give my opinion in any way, shape, or form. Another thing left behind that took me a very long time to recover from. And so people out there who like to diminish emotional abuse, they don't know what trauma is. Emotional abuse is emotional devastation. It's emotional violence. And it's a messaging that when a child receives that thing about themselves that's not true, that they carry on throughout their lives into their adulthood. And it takes so much work to unravel and to develop a sense of self. Because when you are emotionally abused, you are taught that you need to show up for everybody else first to make sure that you're meeting their needs and that you're acceptable and not going to be judged and abandoned as being selfish or a user or a follower.